Welcome. Today we will learn the alternate nostril breathing technique. Sit comfortably with your spine erect and shoulders relaxed. Place your left hand on your knee, palm open to the sky, and gently bring the tips of the index finger and thumb in contact with each other. With the right hand, control the flow of breath through the nostrils. Place the index and middle finger on your forehead between the eyebrows. Place the little finger and ring finger gently on the left nostril, placing the thumb on the right. Press your thumb down and breathe out gently through the left nostril. Then breathe in from the left nostril and breathe out from the right. Breathe in from the right nostril and exhale from the left. Remember to breathe in from the same nostril from which you exhaled. It's important to take long, deep breaths in without forcing or putting effort, as if you were smelling the fragrance of a flower.
The most important thing you have to remember when holding a baby, especially a newborn, is to cradle them holding their head and neck up to make sure that the head does not fall too back or too forward. There are a few different holds that people prefer when holding a baby. You can hold the baby chest to chest. You can hold the baby stomach to stomach on an angle. You can cradle the baby. You can hold the baby in what's called the football hold, where you put your hand underneath their chin, flip over the baby, and hold them outstretched this way.
Let's start off with a new cube, which will kind of be our invisible cage around the goo. Make it 400 centimeters on every side and move it up while holding shift until it aligns exactly with the goo object. Do this by going to our character menu again and then open the commands drop down and select bind. It will create a tag on the cube and makes the connection for us. And if we pick one of our joints and move it now, but as you can remember, we want the goo to do this and not the cube. So to turn the cube into a cage for the goo, we want to add a mesh deformer and drag it under the goo object itself. And with that still selected, you can see the cage's field right here. So drag our cube object inside of it and we finally turned it into a cage. Now if we press initialize up here, we have rigged our goo to the joints. So if we move our joint, we get the result we are looking for. To finish things up, we have to move our parts of the sphere under the corresponding joints. When that is done, we have the final rig model, which is entirely ready to get animated.
An expression which hints rather than states, indicates rather than explains, suggests rather than describes, an art which leaves an enormous amount to the beholder's or the listener's imagination, instead of excluding his participation by a perfection of finished detail. Yet the listener is not expected to fill in the details literally, but to share in the mood which the poem implies. Not a single stone to throw at the dog, the wintry moon.
Let's use the fingering chart to figure out how to play the note D. First, let's begin by placing our fingers on all of the home keys.
Is to make sure you have about 6 to 8 inches from the rod tip down to the lure. And that's going to give you the most accuracy. You don't want it to be hanging too long, and you don't want it to be too short.
Tan with your knees up to help with any tan lines on your bottom, or keep them down for any lines behind your knees.
We started out with right over left. We're going to finish off with left over right. Go ahead and take that left-hand rope, go back under, make that second twist, and you're going to snug up the knot. You can pull on the long lines, snug it up real nice, and what you should see form is that iconic square knot.
That. I'm just going to presume in this video that that you understand that purgatory is real, that it's a place of purification. What is it? We know as Christians that Jesus Christ, He took away the eternal consequences of sin. The eternal consequence of sin being hell. But there are such things as temporal or temporary or in-time consequences for sin. We all recognize this, and this is a very interesting thing, is that we recognize, yeah, there's eternal consequences for sin, aka hell. But there's also temporal consequences for sin, that we experience the effects of it in our lives. One of the consequences of sin in our lives is we don't love how we should, right? We love the wrong things, or we love the right things wrongly, right? It just becomes one of those things where our hearts need to be purified. Our love needs to be purified, either in this life or in purgatory, in order to be able to do what? In order to be able to love God as He deserves. Because I know this about myself, that even if I'm in a right relationship with God, right? So I'm in a state of grace, I don't love God as He deserves.
Step 3. Unite your lips with hers and give her a soft and sweet French kiss. Tip. Do not put your tongue in her mouth too quickly, as it could be uncomfortable. A good kiss should start slowly and increase the passion little by little.
But you do it repetitively, you vocalize it, and you do it multiple times. I'd recommend saying something to the effect of, I have made contact with a spirit guide. I would say that 10 times.
What we're going to do is cut a notch in there and try and collect some of that hot dust that's coming off, and that's what we're going to pour in the bird's nest, and that's what's going to catch fire. Not really sure how long I should do this for.
It seems you try to stop thinking, and you read all this and you try to practice it, but yet in any given situation, I find that in order to get closer to practicing it or even practice it, it's causing a lot of thoughts to happen. So is that different kind of thoughts, or those thoughts that I should break that kind of habit, and if so, how?
That you hoped you would hear somebody who had something to say would be of help and relevance to you as members of a world which is running into the most intense difficulty. A world beset by a complex of problems, any one of which would be bad enough. But when you add together all the great political, social, and ecological problems with which we are faced, they are appalling. And one naturally says, the reason why we are in such a mess is not simply that we have wrong systems for doing things, whether they be technological, political, or religious. The systems may be all right, but they are in the wrong hands because we are all, in various ways, self-seeking.
It's going to be okay.
Let's ground this question in a real-world example. For the first 17 years of his life, Will was known as a capable and intelligent student. He had a large group of friends. He excelled in sports. His teachers loved him, and his parents, well, they couldn't be more proud. Everyone in Will's environment admired him. He was a big fish in a small pond, so naturally his dreams followed suit. He was 100% sure he would be successful one day, so he never bothered to think any harder about it. On the surface, it sounds like Will had it made, right? Doesn't that mean he really is on the path toward a successful, meaningful life? Okay, let's jump forward a few years.
Do you hear that stream? Why, yes. There, is the way to enter. The season of spring. New Year's Day. Nothing good or bad, just human beings.
Do you know Sri Lanka? I climbed up the tower there, Sirigura, which is 600 feet up to the top. I've always been fond of the water, and I did a lot of yachting when I was young as well. Another part of my misspent youth. My name is John Dennerly. I'm 102 and a half.
I don't feel any older than I was, what, 20, 30 years ago, except with my limitations.
I don't feel 29, but say 79, 69, 79.
I'm not going yet. I'm still strong. I'm very, very strong. I've never realized how strong I am.
All right. Cool. So this is a song called Hard that I wrote after I graduated from college in 2018, and I felt very stuck, but I still had a hopeful quality to it that I wanted to come through because I still feel that way in some ways, but there's always more to come.
Watching my days slip by in a haze, I wish it weren't this way. So why don't I change? Sometimes it's hard to pick happiness. Ooh. Watching time go by, feeling too scared to try. When did this become my life? Washing in with her, when will I learn? My heart doesn't always have to burn. I'm not happy like this. So why don't I change? Sometimes it's hard to pick happiness. Maybe someday I'll be okay to choose. I'm not happy like this. So why don't I change? Sometimes it's hard to pick happiness. But hard doesn't mean impossible. Hard doesn't mean impossible.
Okay. So this song is called Some Days, and I kind of saw it as maybe the older sibling to my other song called Hard, because I wrote it afterwards, and I kind of saw if Hard was the question, then Some Days was more of an answer kind of resolution. I just see it as accepting that me and everybody else are going to have days that are difficult, and there should be no shame in that, and you know, feeling bad about it just makes you feel even worse. So it's kind of, I guess, a song of self-acceptance and more of an understanding and empathetic view of others as well.
Some days I find it hard to be proud of myself. Sorry, Mom, sorry, Dad. You'll say not to feel that way. I tried to share, but I see it made you mad. But I've realized it's okay. Some days I'll feel great, and some I won't. But I'm still just as worthy when I don't. Some days I watch in awe as I see the people who inspire me look so sad. Though I understand, I can't believe people that talented could ever feel bad. But I've realized it's okay. Some days they'll feel great, and some they won't. But they're still just as worthy when they don't. We all have some days. No one is immune, but it will pass soon. And then will come days of pride, where love will shine and doubts will hide. just as worthy when you don't, and it'll all be worth it. It'll all be worth it.